What are we working on today? Anything cool?
Actually, there's really nothing to work on right now.
All right, good luck in Memphis, ladies and gentlemen. Joining us now is a man whose name is synonymous with the sport of golf. For more than 25 years, he's been in the top 50 ranking in golfing. He's the current PGA champion, has made, and this number is public, so it's not us pocket watching it all, $95 million in the PGA, hitting bombs and hellacious seeds. Ladies and gentlemen, the Lefty Phil Mickelson.
Yeah! Thank you.
Woo! How are you, man?
I'm great, man. Thanks for having me on your show. This is cool.
No, we are very lucky that you're here. We want to let you know, thank you so much for your time. We hope we don't make you dumber or worse at golf as we go through this conversation. Let's dive right into it. I just got off the course, Phil. All right, I had a couple birdies, had a couple pars, then I had like 3 to 4 triple bogeys. What, I watched the match, okay? I listened to you go through golf and teach me golf, and then the execution part, I just completely messed it up. What's going on, Phil? How do we get me to become good golfer? That's where I need to be at, Phil.
I don't really worry about the triple bogeys and double bogeys. I make them too, but I just try to make a lot of birdies, and that's what's fun. I would just recommend you play match play. That seems to be your thing, Pat.
Yes, that is exactly right. I actually won by 3 holes, so you and I are already on the same page. Looks like we're already dancing. Whenever you talk about the sport of golf, your career has been so many incredible chapters. And I think how a lot of us got introduced to you is like, hey, there's this California dude who is going against Tiger, it seems like, every single week. Did you know that what you and Tiger were doing was going to be so good for golf in the long haul? Did you hate those times? Did you enjoy those times? Was that a tough time for you mentally whenever, you're going against the guy in the middle of his prime, but you were still a superstar in your own right?
So what was cool about that was he brought out the best of me because he forced me and everybody else to get better. And that type of challenge, that type of drive, he instilled in a lot of us. And I really enjoyed the fact that I had a chance to play against him. And granted, I probably would have won some more tournaments and possibly some other majors and so forth, but I might not have, because maybe I wouldn't have pushed myself as hard. I think as I look back, it identifies a couple of things, and that is, to be the greatest or to be the best at your sport, it has to be all encompassing. So you have to have the physical skill, you have to have the work ethic, obviously, but you also have to have the mental focus, the ability to be calm, and the ability to, kind of hyper focus on your task, as well as kind of the nutritional part, the eating part. And that's the part that I lacked. I didn't have the discipline in my eating that I had in my work ethic. As I look back, I wish I had done that differently. But because of Tiger, we as a tour have grown exponentially greater than I ever imagined, because he brought us from the back page of the USA Today, if anybody knows what that is, to the front page of the USA Today, and brought us on the front page of sports. And so that was really a big thing for the sport of golf. And now we're the first time in a little bit of a while, we're also having another boom because of COVID, and it being one of the few things that you can do safely.
Well, and also I think the match you have been a rock star. Absolutely. And this last one I got to watch, obviously, most recently, and I watched it back a little bit last night, because there was a couple things you did during that thing that I found so fascinating. One of them was when you were speaking about the match, and I think this is a new chapter of your life, by the way. You're like one of the faces of golf, everybody's favorite. You're like Uncle Phil at this point. Rest in peace to Uncle Phil and Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, obviously. But you're like Uncle Phil to everybody. In the match, we're getting a chance to kind of learn a lot more about you. And I heard you say, and I think it was for one of your sponsors, so I don't want to say the wrong one, but you said the company has been a backer of the match since the beginning. Do you feel like real ownership over that? Because you are like the guy of that match, by the way. And I don't know if you realized that it felt like you felt it was getting a little slower, and you're like, all right, I'm going to start doing a little bit more talk. You are. Like, that is a big part of the match, is learning from Uncle Phil Mickelson in there. Is that something you know going in, or is that just how you naturally always are?
So the match actually was started by myself and a friend of mine, Brian Zerf, and we're half owners. So we kind of had this idea of it started a while ago, obviously, with the first one being myself and Tiger, and it has transformed into an opportunity to kind of bring athletes or other people who are the best at what they do, and let the public kind of see them in a more fun light, which is more socially acceptable on the golf course. Like, you can talk smack on the golf course and it's okay. If you do that off the course, it doesn't come across great. And so the match gives these players, like, look at Tom Brady. I mean, he's the greatest at what he does, but you get to see a fun side of him. You get to see a sense of humor, and you also get to see him humanized by the sport of golf. And so this has been a fun way to kind of showcase people's personalities. And for me personally, it's been good because by getting rid of all of the noise, let's say, okay, so we don't have fans so that we can have a lot more interaction. You get to hear the conversations between players and a lot of the little things that we say. And some of it, it can be funny and entertaining, or some of it could be insightful and give you a different look at how some players are looking at shots and analyzing stuff. I really enjoyed listening to Bryson talk because he comes at golf at such a different area or different way, different angle, that hearing what he has to say, it's actually helped me in a number of areas. I can't process and implement everything that he says, but I can take little tidbits that really help me. And so I think everybody can do that from all good players, is not learn everything or try to do everything that they say, but take little tidbits that can increase your game and performance.
Yeah, not just in golf, by the way, but in life. You should be trying to learn and be a sponge and see the greats in what you can apply to your own life. And I think the match has done that immensely. And talking about the whole mental side of the sport, you saying DeChambeau comes from an opposite side, I would like to get to at some point, because the mental toughness it takes to, that ball is so small.
Oh, man. Tiny.
It is so small. And then this thing's like smaller than a field hockey stick. Is so small.
Oh,
I don't know what they're doing. I was forced to watch that this weekend. This is smaller, though, than that. It makes no sense how you guys have success, prolonged success. And this is coming from somebody who had to punt a ball over and over again once or twice a quarter. The fact that you guys, mental capacity, we'll dive into that. But I want to talk about what you said about Tom Brady, because you were very complimentary of Tom Brady after the match about how he inspired you. And I think you mentioned this earlier about your diet, and whenever you were younger, you wish you would take advantage of it more. I think Tom Brady's that same person, where he looks back at whenever he was younger and wishes he was implementing some of the avocado ice cream and stuff that he's doing there. But aside from just the diet from Tom, what is it to be learned whenever you're around him? Is it just like, okay, this guy's the most competitive human I've ever encountered? Or what all is it you think that you've enjoyed being around Tom so much about?
Seeing the way he keeps everything in balance and in check. So when he is playing football and studying film, he is fully present. His mind is cognizant of exactly what he's doing, and he's getting the most out of it. And then when he gets away from the field, the way he is able to re-engage with his wife and family and spend all of his time and focus and energy and be present with them. And then when he's out on the golf course, the way he can hang out, be present, be funny, and let go. But also it's the overall discipline, the overall balance that he has. And we all think or wish that we had been a little bit more knowledgeable or insightful in areas throughout our career. But the fact is, we just didn't have that knowledge. We just didn't have the information. It wasn't out there. So when Tiger came out in golf, he was the first one to really start pushing kind of workouts. I mean, we had Gary Player years ago, but he was the first one that really kind of everybody saw how working out could be an advantage and started doing that. And Tom Brady's really been the first one in the NFL that's, well, I shouldn't say that, Romanowski and the linebacker for Denver for years, where they're doing everything they can to recover and eat right and get their bodies to allow them to play at a later age. Like he has taken it to a next level, but the information that he has just wasn't around, 15, 20 years ago. So we're learning as we go. But the way he is able to be fully present in whatever he's doing is what I'm really getting out of it, and it's helped me in other areas of my life.
Phil, since the social media boom, all right, and I don't know how long or who was the one to tell you, like, hey, you need to buy in that you're Phil Mickelson, all right? And I don't know who had to have that conversation with you or not, but the bombs and seeds and the coffee and everything and the calves and the flexibility, it's almost like I feel bad that I didn't know what a Phil Mickelson was for all those years before the social media era. You've really taken to the new technology, the digital age, like a fish to water. Do you enjoy that? Do you do it yourself? Do you have a team? How has that thing come about? Because you are one of the best followers on the internet right now.
I appreciate you saying that. And I was scared to go on social media, because I first of all have a very addictive personality, so I can go overboard and not keep it in balance. But when I first started, I had help, and it was frustrating for me because I wasn't able to get out little responses or little tidbits that I wanted to put out there. So I just have taken it over myself, and I try to keep it in balance. Every now and then I'll get a text from some guys on my team like, "Hey, what are you doing, man? Take that down." And I'm okay with that. I try to keep everything as positive as I can and as fun. And really, I'm just doing what I say and do on the golf course with my friends, and just kind of have like it's just coming out now because of social media. And I haven't been any different, but it's easier to. So when we say things, how we say it changes the meaning entirely, right? So if we're out playing with your buddies, Pat, and you make a 30-footer and you start mouthing off, "That's how it's done, my man," like or "That's how it's done, my man."
Yeah.
Like one's in your face, intrusive, and the other is kind of funny based on your inflection. And so what social media has allowed me to do is present it in the right tone or light that it's meant, because sometimes it's not read the way that it was said.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that is one of the biggest flaws of social media. Shout out to me right there, 2 times me. How you doing? Keep it moving. Did he just bail on us? He got kicked out of the Zoom.
Okay. We don't do Zoom.
We don't do Zoom. Zoom's not the best, but
Phil fucking Mickelson.
Phil fucking Mickelson.
Yeah, that's right.
You do what you got to do for Phil Mickelson. I want to get into his brain a little bit. Yeah.
See what's going on.
Yeah. I want to dive into there. Mm-hmm. I really want.
What's in the works?
Yeah.
So we got cut off for a second, but I just thought maybe you could only take me in doses. Which most people do, and I totally get it.
Hey, that happens to me all the time too, Phil. I thought you were doing that on the opposite end. So that was not the case. Classic technology, but I do enjoy that you've taken over your social media, and the way you do things and say things is fantastic. Listening to you talk though, maybe it's just golf in general, but it seems like you're a very deep thinker. Have you always been this way? Are you well studied? Do you like books, or is golf just kind of captivated your entire life and you just love the sport so much you're all the way in there?
So when I get interested in something, I kind of dive all in. Like I almost overboard, and it's to a fault. So I get back to that balance thing. And so, but I try to learn everything I can to be as knowledgeable as I can in a particular area of interest. And so so I feel like I have a reasonable amount of knowledge in certain areas and absolutely no knowledge in other areas. And I would prefer to ask questions, because I always feel like when you're asking questions, you're learning something new. When you're talking, you're just reiterating what you already know. I like being much more inquisitive, but it just depends what we're talking about. That kind of changes the narrative.
Okay, so when you're working, it seems like you dive all in. You've said it a couple of times. Whenever you're working on golf, do you still have the same routine that you had whenever you were younger now, or is it much different? And how often do you just go down there and just hit Phil Mickelson flop shots all day? Because every time I golf and I turn, like, let's say I have a 60 degree, not a big deal. It's about 70 yards. I found out this morning on hole 7, by the way. That would have been nice to know. Hole 1 would have been a much little bit better piece of information to have in my whole golf game. But anytime you turn one sideways and you flatten it, you're like, oh, watch this. I'm going to do like Phil Mickelson does. And then you just go out there. Normally, you either blade it, hit it straight up in the air to the right, or you somehow get lucky and it goes, and everybody's like, oh, my God.
Incredible shot.
Phil Mickelson. Wow. That's what that is kind of become, and I remember you hit the one over your head that one time. That was a mind blower from me. Is the short game something you've always just been good at, or are you good at it because that's all you work like so much on it at all times?
When I was a kid, my dad had a little chipping area in our backyard and putting green. And so I would just go out there and hit balls because I couldn't really go to the golf course. And all I did was shots inside 30 yards. And it got very monotonous to hit the same shot over and over. So I'd go behind the avocado tree. I'd go back around the other trees and bushes and rough and so forth. And so I would get creative as a kid hitting those shots. And you kind of learn a couple of things. But what I would say, Pat, is that there's really only one way to chip effectively, because you're coming in with no coverage on the ball. You're coming in with so much loft that the leading edge is coming in first. So you have to have your weight forward. That's it. You have to have your weight forward and drive the club down into the ground. And most people, when they do that, their hands either come back or their weight comes back and the leading edge comes up and blades it. Now, you can kind of flip your hands a little bit if you have a good lie. Like if the ball's sitting in the first cut or it's sitting up, but that technique will not work all the time. And so that's why I prefer and believe that the technique where you have your weight forward, your hands forward, and you drive the club down to the ground will be consistent every time. So lay that club flat, move that ball off your left toe, get that ball off your front left. There you go. And open that face flat and just drive the club down into the ground. The ball will pop up like a gem.
I think I'm a scratch golfer.
Let's go!
I think it makes sense, by the way, that your childhood was spent within 30 yards of a green. My childhood was spent kicking a soccer ball off the side of a house. Worked out for me. It's worked out for you much better. So I think my kid potentially is going to do that. I see the Wanamaker Trophy. I see better than ever. It really does feel like you are playing your best golf you have ever played. Is that? I heard Drew Brees say this one time, and it was, I think, last year, maybe the year before. And he said, as you get older in the sport of football, your brain gets so much better. You're just hoping your body can hang on so you can take advantage of all your knowledge. Is that how you feel in golf? Are you going to be able to do this till you're 70, you think? Or are you going to be able to play at this high level with where your body is with the with the coffee and no jitters, no crash with the coffee?
That's right.
Also, there. That's good coffee. Hey, that coffee's good coffee. But with your brain and with the way golf works, there's no end in sight. You're playing the best you've ever played, right? Am I wrong in thinking that or no?
No, I agree. And I've learned a lot over these last 10 years about nutrition and about my body because of something that happened to me when I was 40 in 2010 when I got an autoimmune disease, psoriatic arthritis, and I wanted to get rid of it. I had to go on a very strong drug, a TNF inhibitor. And I went to a health practitioner. I said, how can I help myself and be accountable for my own health? And he did a bunch of tests and he found out that my immune system, my T1 and T2 cells, as he referred to it, were out of balance and that I had way too much TH1. I needed more TH2. He said, drink coffee all day and take grapeseed extract, resveratrol, and green tea extract. So I do. I haven't not been sick a day in 11 years. I'm off all meds. I don't have arthritis anymore. There's no reason why I could not be performing at a high level for many, many years, as long as my drive and my interest is up. But I love golf, and I'm passionate about golf, and I play it not because of any extrinsic rewards, but because of the intrinsic rewards, because of the love and passion and enjoyment that I get out of it, as well as the competition. So there's no reason why I should not be able to play at a high level for a long period of time. My wife is one of the most charismatic, dynamic individuals I've ever met. And she was able to convince an artist, Ed Ruscha, to make who's very famous for word art, to make this picture painting for my 50th birthday, Better Than Ever. And it refers to a lot of areas in my life. I want to be better than ever in our relationship. I want to be better than ever in my career. I want to be better than ever in all parts of my life. And it was a very inspiring thing. And that's why actually I have it here. I look at it every day, and it's a very motivating piece for me. And I love how art can instill this emotion. It brings out inspiration for me.
Yeah, that's awesome. Sometimes getting a visual reminder, by the way, is something that is beautiful. Congrats to you and your wife on an incredible run, and also the motivation here to make you the best you possible. I think it's fascinating with professional athletes. Really good, really good, really good. Get to a point where business gets involved. You kind of get jaded, but you're still really good. Then you kind of see the 18th hole. You know what I mean? And I think you start to enjoy it more. And that's in all sports. That's not just in golf. You see it in football. You'll see one of our greats, like even Tom, I think he's enjoying it now more than ever because he knows that it's potentially over at some point. You don't take the little practices for granted anymore. You enjoy the finer things. It's nice to know that you're there completely and fully. And it seems like, hey, how far are we hitting the ball right now? How far are we hitting the ball right now if we had to? Just to uncork a bomb or a... How far we got it right now if you had to?
farther than my opponent.
Hell yeah!
I heard you keeping track with DeChambeau in the match show. I heard you keeping track there a couple of times. My last question before the boys have it, and I can't thank you enough for your time. I know you're very busy. You got another couple tournaments to win within the next probably month or so. When you hear DeChambeau talk about the way he was talking, there was a lot of numbers involved. Oh, we got to go 7 to 8 to 9 to 10 to this and that whole thing. And I know there's a different way of looking at it for you guys, I would assume, but you alluded to it earlier. DeChambeau is just a completely different animal when it comes to golf, or there have been people that act the way he does. He's just ramping it up a complete different level. And then whenever you're looking at shots, is there any thinking, or is it just kind of like, oh, we're this far out, I got to do, no thinking. I've heard you, the grass is a little moist. It's 7 a.m. Yep. It's growing towards us. The sun's this way, so I'm going to punch it in there. Then it's going to slow down a little bit. Is that every shot you're having full thoughts like that? And why is DeChambeau so much different than the way you operate?
So I'll give you a little example of how we do the same thing, but in a different way. His is more scientific and technology based, and I'm doing the same thing, or have been for years. So for instance, lag putting, when we get on fast greens, what I would do and have done for 20 years with the help of Dave Pells was build a reference stroke for 40 feet, 50 feet, 60 feet. So I know uphill and downhill. So I know if I take it back this far and I accelerate as fast as I can, I know this putt's going to go 50 feet, okay? And I would have to reset that each week based on the green speeds. But Augusta, you can't tell or feel the difference between 50 feet and 55 feet downhill. It is so minute. But if you have a reference point that you know is 50 feet and you take it back there and you accelerate and it goes 50 feet every time, well, that's a reference point. Okay, so that's what I do. What Bryson does is he takes it back to certain points and he reads from the little portable launch monitor, the quad that he uses, the ball speed, how fast the ball comes off the face. So he knows that if he takes the putter back to this point and accelerates as fast as he can, the ball will come off at 4 miles an hour, 6 miles an hour, 8 miles an hour. And he knows mathematically that downhill on a green that stimps at 13, that putt's going to roll out 55 feet. And uphill into a stimped green at 13 and a half, that ball is going to roll 42 feet. Like, he has the math on that. And so he's doing the same thing, but in a much more scientific way. I did not have that technology when I was practicing, so I had to do it a little bit different way to build that reference. So now when we go out on the golf course and we're hitting shots, he's doing the same thing, reading the lies, and what he's doing is identifying why the ball is coming up short or shorter than normal based on different lies. So you talked about water if there's water. Okay, water actually increases the spin. So I didn't know this until I didn't know why. Like, I knew it, and I knew that it spun more. I just didn't know why. And he was the one that explained it to me. Well, imagine the dimples as suction. And when you get water in there, it creates a greater suction and a better grip on the surface area. So with a 4-iron, a 5-iron, a 6-iron, you're going to get another 1,000, 1,500 RPMs of spin, which is going to make the ball go a lot shorter. However, there's a point of deflection. So when you start getting too much loft, it will cause slippage where the ball will slide up the face and be kind of like a jumper.
See, Phil, isn't this so much thinking to be had while you guys are trying to do something that is, I mean, a ball trying to fit on this thing is, how do you guys not, and that's, the yips are a real thing, I guess, but how do you get out of your own brain whenever you have that much going on? And I said this about DeChambeau, and I'm just looking at it as a punter, kicker, who also has to battle, in between the ears, basically, before everything. Once one of those things unravels, isn't there a chance that can continue to go? And it is the in-between the ears thing, that's the entire game of golf, is it not?
So yes, and you've heard many people say it's about the process. Enjoy the process. You have to. There was an incredible Zen master, Awa Kenzo. He was the one of the book, Zen and the Art of Archery. Okay, was written by this guy Harrigal, who wanted to study with Awa Kenzo, and this guy was this incredible archer back in the late 1800s, early 1900s, and he said something called you need to let go of your willful will. You need to let go of your desire to control the outcome, is the way I interpret it, right? So if you look at Bryson, when he's factoring in all of these numbers, what's he doing? He's in the process. He's enjoying the process. He's not worried if the ball ends up a foot. He's worried about how to get the ball to end up a foot. And so he's running this math, and he's doing it in his head in a matter of a fraction of a second, as fast as a computer almost. Maybe not a computer, but close, because he's done it so many times. And if you see him on the range, thousands and thousands of balls he's hitting balls at 9:45 at night at the U.S. Open. Like, nobody works harder than Bryson.
He's not enjoying the process. Huh? I don't know if that's
it.
That's amazing. Go ahead, Ty.
Phil, I am also a lefty, so thank you for giving me someone to emulate while I was growing up playing golf. But I've always been curious, like, what's your mindset going into a tournament? Obviously, you win the PGA this year, and then you go to, like, the Open Championship. When you're going in, are you thinking like, okay, I'm going to win this tournament no matter what? Or you obviously know your game better than anyone else and you miss the cut. Like, are you thinking, okay, I'm going to have to be perfect in all different ways to win and compete this week? Like, how does that go?
So in my mindset is I want to prepare and give myself my best chance to succeed and be in position to contend or win or what have you. And when I went into, I'm going to use the U.S. Open as a better example because it was here in San Diego. And I went out to Torrey the week before the U.S. Open, and I spent hours each day putting on every green and videoing every putt. I hit, 800 putts, maybe more. I averaged 30 times 18, so 800 putts. And I would watch them. And I would, before the rounds, I would go out and pick the whole location that they actually had for that day, and I'd watch the videos, and I'd go work on my game. And the fact is that I didn't play well, and I didn't win, and John Rahm did. What a great win. But I did everything I could to succeed. And I go to the British Open, and I practiced, and I went there early, and I prepared. I was playing really well. Heading to the Open. I do not know what happened on Thursday. I played great in the practice rounds. I felt prepared. I felt ready. I thought I was going to come out and play, and my mind went blank, and I just kind of lost it. And I think that's one of those things where after playing, 5 out of 6 weeks, I had the match in there. I didn't have the mental strength, capacity, or longevity, whatever. Maybe it's at age. Maybe it's just me to be that present, that focused for that period of time. And so that's why we as athletes have to understand and know ourselves and kind of pace ourselves so that we perform at the biggest events. But okay, so now knowing that I prepared as well as I could and I did everything I possibly could, if I don't succeed, it's okay because I can't do anything different. So I gave it my best chance. I gave it everything I could. I put everything into it. I didn't succeed. Now, when I do succeed, like at the PGA, it's very fulfilling.
Yeah, I would say.
Right?
Yeah.
Right, because you live for those moments. And when you get a few of those moments, you cherish them forever.
6 major wins, so many magical moments in the history of golf. You're drinking out of a mug with your own picture on it. I mean, what job well done. Hey, Lefty, hell of a job. And his last question, we can't thank you enough for your time. Better than ever, obviously. Go ahead, Connor.
Yeah, Phil, one of the big storylines that's been going on in golf lately is this Brooks-Bryson rivalry. Is that something you think is good for golf, or do you think that there's kind of no room for that on the tour and it almost draws like a divide in the clubhouse?
I think it's brilliant for golf. I think it's incredible. And I like and respect both players very much, and I think that it's something that has helped golf transcend outside of just the golf page, but more into the sports world. And I think it's been great for both of them individually as well. So I think it's been terrific, and they've brought a lot of awareness to the game of golf and a lot of great storylines, a lot of interest. I think it's been fabulous.
There was a conversation that it was going to be Bryson, Brooks, and Mickelson.
Yeah.
And I think it was the first pairing potentially post the eye roll DeChambeau Brooks situation. And I think everybody was like, Phil Mickelson's the perfect guy to put in.
Yeah.
Phil Mickelson's the perfect guy to put in there. Are you you have to be somebody that all these young golfers go to, right? Have to be. I assume that is just a kind of a part of the job now at this point, is answering and giving advice, or is that not something that happens in golf?
No, it definitely happens. And for me, it was guys like Ben Crenshaw that were very helpful, where I was able to ask questions. And so it's helpful to have a lot of these questions answered and get some ideas and direction on how to handle some difficult situations that nobody else would really be aware of unless you were in the golf world, unless you were playing the PGA Tour, some of the challenges that you face. And there's solutions. There's a lot of solutions to them, but sometimes it takes a while to find them on your own. So I'd be happy to answer anything. I'd also be happy to kind of referee as the third wheel in that match too. But I don't think it's a great idea to do it during a major championship. And the reason is it takes away from the major championship. I think it puts all the focus on the group and not on the tournament itself. And in a major, you want to elevate the status of the event. In a regular tour event, I think it's great. I think it'd be fine because you want to create interest in that PGA Tour event. The majors don't need the interest. They want to let their own history be the storyline. And so that's why I didn't think it was great in the majors, but I wouldn't be surprised if it happens in a tour event.
I can't wait to see it. Last question before we let you go. Aaron Rodgers, the best golfer you've seen in the match, yeah?
Well, that aren't tour pros, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Did you expect that out of him or no?
I was hoping it wouldn't be the case, but
Hey, I didn't know you guys did not have a relationship before that. I assumed you two knew each other. When he gave a shut up Phil or something like that, I started laughing so hard. But that goes back to your point. In the realm of competition in golf, you're allowed to say things like that, and people are completely cool with it. And you were completely cool with it at the time, as were you today. Thank you so much, Phil. We appreciate it, man.
Thanks for having me on, and good luck with everything. I'm a big fan. I enjoyed being a part of it.
Well, Phil, you know, the fact that you potentially know this show exists is a big day. Yeah. The fact that you came on here, we're not better than ever. We still stink, but you're an absolute legend. Ladies and gentlemen, Phil Mickelson. Thank you. Yeah! Cheers, man.